Hello and welcome to Now Spinning Magazine. And this is going to be a fantastic show today. I'm absolutely delighted to have with me Pete Pardo from the Sea of Tranquility, Grant from the Grant's Rock Warehaus, and also Brendan Snyder. Those of eagle-eyed will know that we've been together quite a few weeks on the trot where we've looked at top five albums, going down the highway type albums, and all sorts of things. And this one is about our top most played solo albums. I was thinking how to word this and I put best solo albums, but there's just so many. I mean, we've tried to be strict on thinking, well, it's not if it's got the word band, project, or group after it, we've kind of shied away from those. But there are so many things to look at. It could be, it could be a famous jazz album from the 60s. It could be A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. It could be For the Love of Metal by Steve Snyder. They're all valid. I've got both of those, but they haven't made my top five list for this afternoon or this morning, wherever you're watching this. So we've all got five albums and some honorary mentions at the end. So it'd be very exciting to see if we've chosen anything similar. So I think I'll go over to you, Pete, first, wearing that fantastic Deep Purple Fireball T-shirt.
Yeah.
And what is the first one on your list?
Okay, so before I talk about my first one, I found this very difficult to pick just five because there are a ton. And, you mentioned like jazz before, and I could have easily done five picks from jazz or fusion because it's just, you look at like the career of like, Miles Davis or Thelonious Monk or whoever, you pick any of these like old jazz guys and the great players that came through their bands and went and did great things on their own, right? I mean, like the first thing I thought, I could pick an Al Di Meola album, I could pick a Chick Corea album, I could do Stanley. I mean, you could do all these. So I said, you know what? Rather than drive myself crazy and even go in the jazz and fusion realm, I just basically stuck with more rock-based stuff. So my first pick today is from a guitar player from a mega, mega band, and this is the only real solo album that he ever released under his own name. And he basically brought along most of the members of that other big band except for one. And it's the Barry Goodrow solo record, Barry Goodrow.
What a choice.
One of mine.
Basically a Boston album without
Great
the
record.
Yeah. That is the most Boston sounding Boston album without being Boston.
Happened, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all the ones that we've done, I think we filmed 4 on my channel. And we've done other What Is It with you, Phil. But never have we matched an album.
Yeah, that was
a fantastic album. I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's basically Boston without Tom Schultz. And basically it sounds like a Boston album, but it's more raw. It's not as polished and it doesn't have that Tom sheen. And it doesn't have the Rockman sound and all that whatnot. But it's got Brad Delp singing. It's got the same rhythm section. It's got the blistering guitars and great riffs from Barry Goodrow. It's got those vocal harmonies. I mean, songs like Dreams and Hard Luck and Cold, Cold World. To me, it's basically a Boston album without the name on it and without Tom. All the qualities are here. Like I said, a little bluesier, a little more raw, but fantastic. And at a time where the world was probably ready and waiting for another Boston album, this kind of came out with little fanfare. And I guarantee you, if more hardcore Boston fans listened to this would have been a really big seller. And if you never got this back in the day, get the Rock Candy reissue. We talk about Rock Candy all the time across all of our shows that we do together. It's really great. It sounds great. And I can listen to this all the time, and it gives me all those wonderful feels that I always expect when I listen to classic Boston. So, yeah. That's my first pick. I'll be interested to see what more Brendan has to talk about it. But
fantastic.
It's a great one. It's a really good
Does anybody remember if that got any? I don't remember them pushing that album when it came out. Do you guys remember that at all?
No,
not at all.
Out, but yeah,
I didn't find out about it until
I don't
probably
understand.
about a couple of years afterwards. And I've got the Rock Candy version as well. I mean, that's really when I was introduced to it.
It is puzzling, right? Because I mean,
it is puzzling.
Basically, it's got the voice on it. It's just, why wouldn't they push it? From what I heard, Tom was very pissed off that they did this.
Yeah, I thought it was related
behind the scenes. I'm sure he was maybe doing some stuff to make sure that this didn't overstage any potential Boston album that was coming. Because at the time, Barry was already out of the band, right? So and basically you got all the other guys to participate in this. So I'm sure Tom was not happy about it.
Yeah, he probably had something to do with squashing a bit of its promotion on it while they waited for a new album from him.
Yeah, because Third Stage, what year was Third Stage again? I mean, that was
86.
Yeah, I think it's 86.
Yeah, it was like 8 years since the...
That's right, since the second album. Yeah, Don't Look Back.
Yeah.
But this would have filled that gap, and it fits in perfectly.
Absolutely. Yeah, along with Orion the Hunter. Right?
Yeah, that's another fantastic one. Yeah, it's another great one.
But I think this is better than Orion the Hunter.
Oh, yeah, hands down. That's why I grabbed it. Well, and we're doing solo albums, but I've got a Razor and Tie version of it that was before Rock Candy got a hold of it. I don't know if Sony had a copy of it out before it got reissued.
Nope, that's the first time it got reissued was that.
Yeah. So this was how I found it. And, not only you mentioned, Brad Delp and you got the drummer Sib on there, but Fran Cosmo, who would be in Orion the Hunter. And then later in Boston, I think on the 94 album, Walk On. So you actually have three guys, even though one's a future guy on there. And you mentioned Hard Luck and Dreams, but I really like the song Nothing to Lose. One right there always jumped out at me. I thought that was a fantastic. Yep. And I still hear lots of Boston, and you're right, it's a raw sound to it. But since, I don't know, what does Boston only have, like 6 albums or something, under their name? Like, this is a great thing to just add into it because there's just not enough Boston out there. So yeah, like Pete said, go check this out. If you're a Boston fan and you love those first two, you will not be disappointed with this.
Totally agree. Okay, Grant, what's your first one on your list?
My first one. All right, we're going to go with an album that was recorded in 1977. It was presented. Well, Robert Fripp produced it. Robert Fripp played guitar on it, but they recorded it. They submitted it to RCA. RCA said, "This isn't going to fly." It sat on a shelf till 1980. We are talking Daryl Hall, Sacred Songs. Oh. This is a brilliant album. This is 50-50 Robert Fripp, Daryl Hall. So if you like Robert Fripp and all of his avant-garde guitarness mixed with someone who really can sing, then you'll like it. This is not a commercial record by any means. So don't think Hall & Oates. This is experimental to some degree. Something in 4/4 time, catchy, quirky track. Frippertronics going all over this thing. I mean, Robert Smith is all over it. And most of the songs they co-wrote together. So, I just don't look at this as just a Daryl Hall solo album. This is really a Fripp Hall solo album. Babs and Babs is probably the most commercial thing on it. But if you listen to this and then you listen to like Hall & Oates voices or in that, you can see that is kind of like a progression from this album. Without this album, you probably wouldn't have that Hall & Oates of the 80s because I can hear tinges of voices and Private Eyes on here to a certain degree. Experimental, great. I can't believe they sat on it for 4 years on the shelf. Or 2 years.
Long time. 4 years is a long time to hold.
If I could add.
Yeah.
But highly recommended. Please check out, especially you're a Robert Fripp fan, you'll dig all of his work on here.
Did that do anything when it came out after they sat on it?
No, I think it got 58 on the Billboard chart. That's about it. But don't forget, this came out in I don't know if Voices had come out yet.
Okay. So they had.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it probably came out after Voices did because they thought, oh, well, crap, look, they're selling records finally.
Right.
And then they probably put it out. But this should have come out earlier. It's just, it's great. Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, Brendan, what's your first one?
All right. So former Fleetwood Mac guitarist, Lindsey Buckingham, phenomenal career on his own right. But this album, Out of the Cradle from 1992, in my opinion, is as good as any of the Fleetwood Mac stuff. The songs that are on here just absolutely stand out. The songs like Listen to Countdown on here, Surrender the Rain, Turn It On, all those songs, in my opinion, because he had actually left Fleetwood Mac by this point, right after 87's Tango in the Night. So this was his first solo album post leaving. And when I listened to this, all that stuff easily could have appeared on Tango in the Night or something that was a follow-up at that period of time. But, Lindsey Buckingham can be a bit of You know, he can go off on a bit of left field, a little wacky in his guitar playing and whatnot. And then he can have these moments of brilliance, right? And so most of his solo albums for me are a split between that. But this album I felt like was the first time that it was just consistent all the way through, sounding like the Fleetwood Mac style, the brilliance, all that great stuff. So I fell in love with this out of all of his albums. Love it. I know it wasn't as popular as his other ones. And just as a quick honorable mention, his 2021 album, I think, is as good as this, meaning another consistent, doesn't go off, on tangents or whatnot, but just another great one. This is just the self-titled that he released in 2021.
Great choice. I think he's a great player and very underestimated in many ways. I think when me and Pete did songs that defined a guitarist, I picked the solo he did in I'm So Afraid off the live Fleetwood Mac album, and I think that's one of the best guitar solos I've ever heard. It's just so emotive and so literally emotional, the way he draws those notes out.
It's a very unique player, which I think we touched on.
But I know what you mean. His solo catalogue can be quite hit and miss depending on where you land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for being in such a big band as Fleetwood Mac, you would think his status or stature as a guitar player for that unique style that he does play. I mean, people have often joked when he leaves Fleetwood Mac, it takes two guitar players being brought in to do what it is that he does. So, but he doesn't get the recognition that I think that he's due, but it might be because of his very inconsistent solo catalog.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, my first choice, I'm going to 1985, and the band that this person pops up from is Blackjack, which most people have never heard of, especially here in the UK. But, this guy couldn't get any luck with that, and he also had Bruce Kulick on guitar in that band who followed him to do his first solo album, which was this one, which is Michael Bolton's Everybody's Crazy. This is just such an amazing classic AOR melodic rock masterpiece. The opening track, I know I'm just a few years older than you guys, but I mean, the city boy, he don't want no control. He just wants to party and plays rock and roll. I mean, I was there. I literally had my dad saying it was time for me to grow up and find a place in the world. And I thought, Michael Bolton, he can see what's going on in my life. This guy knows exactly where I am. But seriously, everything about it, Save Our Love, Call My Name, Every Time, Desperate Heart, there isn't one duff track. And it makes you wonder if this album, and I don't understand why it didn't, if this album had taken off, where would Michael have gone? Would he have turned left instead of turning right? Would he have changed his hairstyle and changed his song repertoire? But this, still to this day, is such a great sounding rock album. This is the Rock Candy remaster. It's just stunning. Absolutely.
I don't think any of us ever doubted that he had the voice, right?
Oh, God, the voice.
I think trying to do all the rock-based material, which just never went anywhere, it's like the record label said, all right, we know you can sing, but you got to do something different. Otherwise, you're gone. And the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You think Rex Smith had the same... You think Rex Smith had the same situation?
Probably.
Very similar.
Yeah. So he did the two Blackjack albums, which were great. I love those. But for me, it's the debut, the 83 titled. Yeah, this one here. I don't even know what to call that era, that sound, the keyboard. I don't know. It's a mix of Springsteen-esque style, but I love this album. But this has Bob Kulick, Bruce's brother, playing on it. So he was on here doing the guitar.
Yeah, I mean, they're just both amazing guitar players. But I think that his voice on this, it was just perfect for this. It was kind of like a 70s blues feel in his voice, which was very different to the kind of 80s way that 80s metal was beginning to draw vocalists in a specific direction. But there isn't a duff track to me. It's just every single one of them is on target.
Yeah, forget everything you know or you've heard or you've seen the charts about Michael Bolton and go get the self-titled and get the second.
Yeah, I think there must be a lot of people out there. I think there's a lot of people out there who filed Michael Bolton under a certain place, and they have no idea that the first two albums exist.
I never would have gone after it if it hadn't been for both Bob and Bruce Kulick being in the lineup up from, Blackjack and then into the solo stuff. Whereas a Kiss fan, I was searching out everything that those guys do and was like, okay, well, I got to get the Michael Bolton, even though at that time, remember, I'm a bit younger than all of you guys. And so I was really getting into music in 87, 88, 89, 90. Like that was my period, right? And that's when Michael Bolton was breaking really big with his crooning ballads and everything like that. If You Love a Woman or whatever was that song, And so that's all I knew him as. And I was just horrified that I was going to be buying a Michael Bolton album. And I was so pleasantly surprised when Blackjack and these two turned out to actually be, rock albums.
Because it's got all the blueprint of what rock was sounding like in 84, 85. The drums are huge, the reverb is turned up to 12, all the choruses are overlaid with overdubs. Everything is just huge, which is what you wanted. Yeah, brilliant. So there's
a reason why he was considered for a vocalist slot in Black Sabbath. So just imagine if that would have happened.
I don't know that I've ever heard that. Wow.
Yeah. He was one of the people they were looking at right around the time where, Dio left and Gillan left and Glenn Hughes and all that whole couple of year period.
Yeah, well, there is a kind of Tony Martin-esque, isn't there? There's a Tony Martin feel to his voice. There is.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of that kind of.
It could have worked. It could have worked.
I think it could have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, in another universe, on a parallel universe. Interesting.
Yep.
So, Pete, we're on to number 2 on your list of most played solo albums.
Okay, so this one probably is the most played on this list. And maybe I would say it's probably my favorite. I didn't really do them in any order here. So if we go back to 1982, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in my room at my parents' house where I grew up, listening to the radio, and the song came on that started off with piano and this very melodic voice. And I was kind of like, I never heard this before. It must be something new. Song picks up a little bit, and then the guitar solo comes in, and I was like, who is this? And I remember like the rest of the song rocked, and I was like, okay. And I had to wait like 15 minutes for them to say who it was. And then when they said, okay, and that song was blah, blah, blah by blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't really know who that is. But I made sure immediately to go find out. And I went to my local record store and I found the album where it came from. The artist was Gary Moore. The album was Corridors of Power.
Yeah.
I'm Always Gonna Love You was the song that I heard on the radio. And I have been an enormous Gary Moore fan since then. And this is his technically, I think this is his 3rd or 4th solo record, something like that. But he had no exposure here in the States at all. And unless you were a Thin Lizzy fan, knew him from Thin Lizzy, obviously Skid Row, the original Skid Row, nobody ever knew who they were here, right? The only Skid Row people knew was soon to be the New Jersey band a couple of years later. But this has always been my favorite solo album from Gary Moore. It's got amazing guitar playing on it. So many great songs. And I remember the first time I heard End of the World, I was just like, this is like the greatest guitar player on the planet. Meanwhile, as a huge Ritchie Blackmore fan at the time, I was kind of like, Ritchie's got some competition coming here. But one of those guys that I think had, he was a great guitar player. He was a really good singer, really great songs, just never really broke big here in the States until he started doing the blues thing. And even that, he had the one big album and that was kind of it. But I've played this to death over the years, and I miss the guy so much. When he passed away, I was like absolutely crushed. But so many great songs on here. I mean, Don't Take Me for a Loser's great. Cold Hard, I Can't Wait Until Tomorrow. There's a couple ballads on here, some real heavy rockers on here. They do a cover of Wishing Well, which is really good. And he's always had really good musicians playing with him, but, he kind of maybe never really had that band, and maybe that's why he never got bigger here. I know a lot of rock fans like when there's that band identity. You have different players on every album. Ian Pace is on here, and he plays with Neil Murray and Bob Daisley and Glenn Hughes, and every album is a different lineup, but always really solid stuff. But this will always be my favorite. And this is not the album cover we had here in the States. We had the weird one with the purple light in the back and him wearing that stupid space suit and the Les Paul. Here he's playing a Strat. So, but
I saw him on that tour. It was a university
no way,
tour.
Really?
Wow. I saw him on that tour, and he did the vocals, but he also had John Sloman from Lone Star and Uriah Heep doing some of the songs, and Ian Pace was obviously playing drums. And because I remember distinctly at the merch stall, Ian Pace had more T-shirts for sale and more stuff than Gary Moore did. And, I remember I met Don Airy in the audience because he was there because he was working with Glenn Hughes behind the scenes as well. But it was, I had the feeling it was great. The hall was about half full, and I just felt that Gary Moore was thinking his future laid somewhere else. And I think he did one more kind of metal based album, didn't he, really? And he kind of moved towards more blues based stuff. And that stuff over here just went stratospheric, really. Just got massive hits with the blues stuff. But that is also my favorite Gary Moore.
I mean, I have a lot of favorites. I love everything he's done. I love the old fusion stuff with Coliseum too.
Oh gosh,
his really early solo records are fun because he was kind of moving from the fusion stuff into this more hard rock thing. He did Victims of the Future next. Then he did the more kind of Celtic album. Then he went back to the metal again, and then blues, and he never looked back from there. So,
what about G-Force?
G-Force is very cool too. That's a little bit different, right?
Yeah. I saw them supporting Sammy Hagar. Yeah. Brilliant band. Yeah.
Never really got the recognition he deserved, though.
So, Grant, what is your second?
Right. My second one, this might be low-hanging fruit, but whatever. It is what it is. I've been listening to this record for years. This was a big favor of mine when I was going to college back in the day. I just remember recording it on a cassette and walking around campus listening to it all the time, just thinking how brilliant it was. Odd, but brilliant. We're talking Syd Barrett, the Madcap Blast from 1970. Of course, Syd was in Pink Floyd, Piper, It's a Gate to Dawn, See Emily Play, all those great Pink Floyd singles back in the day. But I mean, it's produced by Roger Waters and David Gilmour. It was quite what shall we say? They had a lot of problems getting Syd to lay down a track. And they had to do a lot of edits because he was just so out there. But they were able to capture it. And, David Gilmour was able to get him back in to do the second album. So I like it. It's quirky. I mean, if you like any of those old Pink Floyd singles, See Emily Play, it's kind of like that. Syd had a very distinct songwriting personality. And, Octopus is great. Therapin's great. Dark Globe. It's kind of dark, kind of haunting to some degree. But I think what, Gilmour and Waters, they made it a cohesive record, and amazing stuff. But the fact that they took him back in the studio and they produced him, I think that was pretty cool,
Yeah.
I like Syd.
Yeah.
But it's a great record.
Yeah, I think we all love Syd. Yeah, brilliant. Brendan, what's your second choice?
All right. So my approach to this was a little bit of not only great albums and ones I reach for that I play all the time, but also ones that ran under the radar a bit. And so while, big fan of Kiss, talked about, going down the rabbit hole of finding what all these guys did. And I could easily go for, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and Ace Frehley. I'm actually going with Peter Criss, Let Me Rock You from 1982.
Wow.
I don't know why, but this album just struck me from the time of getting it.
I really thought you were going to do that one.
Yeah, I know.
I could have.
But, as Grant said, that's kind of low-hanging fruit. And I wanted to go with a little bit more, not obscure, but ones that I love equally and play a lot. And I will say I probably pulled this out more than any of the others. But I don't know. His solo album was always my favorite of the Kiss released ones, and the fact that he made two more after that, and this is produced by Vinnie Poncia, who also did Dynasty and Unmasked, which are two of my favorite albums from the Kiss era, even though they mix in that sort of disco rock sound, and I love that. A lot of people don't, but this is along the same lines as that, having that disco rock flair to it. So I immediately was able to just go right from those albums into his two solo albums. And this wasn't even issued in the US at the time because his debut solo album, after he had left Kiss and taken off the makeup, did so poorly. They didn't release this until the mid 90s, when this actually came out, and it was Mercury and Casablanca and everything, but that was the first time the US ever saw it. So who knows whether it would have done anything in 82 if it had actually come out in the States or not. Kiss was, on a bit of a downturn at that time, hadn't really returned yet. And so probably wouldn't have done a whole lot, but I still love this album. Let It Go, Move It On Over. Check those tracks out. If you like Dynasty, and I know there's a bunch of people out there that love the Dynasty album.
Yeah, I love that.
I like that. Okay.
Mr. Pardo.
I highly recommend this album.
So that CD, that's a domestic CD that came out on Polygram Mercury?
Yeah.
I've never seen one in my whole life.
No, I've never seen that before. Never seen
It's never come up in the used bin. I mean, if it would have, I would have bought it. I've never seen it.
I never have either. I had to order it in 1994, I think, 93, 94 at that time when I was getting deep into Kiss after Revenge. And my record store got it in for me, this one and his first one. And I've never seen them on the shelves used or anything or reissues.
Wow.
So I'm sure they're out there, but I tend to think that it ran under the radar even more at that time when it got released than it did when it first came out in 82.
I think that's
certainly
great.
not a classic album cover there.
And
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't know what he's looking. Oh,
no, well, I mean, I think he's just, hey, I took my makeup off. Remember, this is 1982. Kids hadn't taken their makeup off yet, right? It was in 83.
Yeah.
They did
83.
you can just see that without some big publicity campaign behind that would have just disappeared because nobody would have known who it was.
You're going through the vinyl racks, you're not seeing that at all.
Right.
No, it's invisible.
Exactly.
So were there a lot of covers on there? Did he co-write stuff?
He co-wrote a couple things on here, but yeah, a lot of this is covers and songs by other people that are on here. Vinnie Vincent co-wrote some stuff on here, Tears, with Adam Mitchell. We got a John Lennon Jealous Guy on here. Move On Over is a co-write with Peter Criss and Vinnie Poncia. Let Me Rock You was Russ Ballard. Steve Stevens, although I don't know if that's the Steve Stevens Billy Idol guitarist, but
Could be.
First Day in the
Probably is.
Rain. Gene Simmons, Feel Like Heaven. And then one more by Peter Criss, Bad Boys at the very end. So a few co-writes, but I mean, that's the other thing. I didn't even mention that. But the co-writes that are on here coming from Russ Ballard and Gene Simmons and, the other guys that are on here, Vinnie Vincent, who would, turn up in Kiss. Also, I always thought was a cool thing listening to those songs that, in my opinion, could be Kiss songs, but were, given over here to Peter Criss.
It's amazing that they didn't even put a former Kiss drummer sticker on the front. Anything to try and shine a light on who it was.
There might have been on the shrink wrap, but I don't think so. And maybe on the original vinyl there would have been. Yeah. But I don't know. He was not happy with Kiss at all, and maybe he really wanted to make a break from it.
Yeah, possible.
I would think the record label, though, would have the ultimate decision on that. If they really thought that album was going to sell anything, they would have done that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah,
it's almost like it's dead in the water before they even put it out, right?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Probably had a 2-album contract, was already in the studio recording the second one while the first one was out, and it just wasn't moving. And like I said, didn't release it in the U.S., so not until the 90s.
Great.
Well, I never thought we'd see Peter Criss pop up today. So
no.
Right. I applaud that. That's great.
I was expecting Mr. Stanley, but yeah, that's interesting. Well, my next one, although I'm in the UK and I obviously was born in a country that gave us Jeff Beck, Ritchie Blackmore, Tony Iommi, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, etc. I love American guitarists, Leslie West, Dickie Betts, Ronnie Montrose. And my next choice is kind of topical because of what's recently happened. And we've lost Rick Derringer. And I've chosen this one because it's my favourite Rick Derringer solo album. I always felt that from where I was in the UK, I was always championing this guy when he was, doing his other solo albums. Then he was in Edgar Winter and Johnny Winter and just Derringer, this other band, and then these solo albums. I kept saying to me mates, "You've got to get into Rick Derringer." And every time, his albums are quite patchy in places. He's a vocalist. He's a songwriter. He's not just a rock guitarist. So his albums are incredibly varied. And where I was, teenager in the late 70s and Van Halen had arrived, we just wanted rock. So anyone who was too varied was like, mm. And I felt that when this came out in 1980, I thought, this is it. This is the one that's going to break through. It's got, AOR, melodic rock, great songs. It also had a mismatch in some of the stuff. There's 2 live tracks that seem at odds with the rest of the album, but they're both brilliant. We've got, the song that's Hey, Hey, My, the Neil Young track, which is a real heavy version of that as well. And I think it's, what is it, Jump 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 is on here as well, a live version. That's fantastic guitar playing. But songs like Runaway and Let the Music Play, Burn the Midnight Oil are just stunning rock songs. And I think that this to me was, he got the closest to breaking through to where, this is 1980 in the UK, we've got the new heavy British heavy metal, rock is everywhere. It's on the radio, and this album lands, and I just thought, this is it now. He's going to be able to break through. But he doesn't. He kind of fades into the distance, makes it sound like he was gone, but he wasn't. He was just diversifying and heading off with Cyndi Lauper and doing all sorts of things.
Cyndi Lauper and wrestling and Hulk Hogan and all that.
Doing all sorts of stuff, but such a fantastic artist. If you listen to his albums, everything he's been involved in, there's so many different styles and flavors and textures to what he did. As a vocalist as well as a guitarist.
It's interesting how, yes, that is the case, but how for so many years people forgot that, and now that he's gone, everybody's talking about what a great overall talent he was and doing so many different things. But he's always been that guy.
Yeah.
Right? But why do we fail to kind of talk about that until they pass away? Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, how did we forget about Rick Derringer all these years? Well, he's always been here, right?
Yeah.
That works.
There's so many great albums, aren't there, really? The 2 Derringer albums, All American, American Boy, and obviously the Johnny Winter stuff, Edgar Winter. And also, I think a lot of people forget just what a great producer he was.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
From such a young age. I mean, the guy looked 16 for about 10 years.
Yeah, he did. Well, he was only like 5'2".
So that's my second choice, and so Pete, we're over now to number 3 for you.
Okay, so number 3 is a solo album from a guy who's got a lot of solo albums. He has played with some really big bands, and I can't believe that this solo album is now 10 years old, because it just doesn't seem like that long ago. But then when you think about it, it's like, wow, he hasn't released anything else from a solo perspective in a decade, because he's been busy doing a million things. He's always busy doing a million things. He's one of my favorite singer, songwriter, bass players of all time. And his solo catalog is kind of patchy. There's some really great stuff there. There's some not so great stuff, but this album to me is where he finally put it all together. 2015's Resonate by Hughes.
Oh.
Grant mentioned him before we started taping today, and you mentioned another album. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
To me, this is the Glenn Hughes I really love. I mean, it's fairly heavy, it's pretty rock, and it's still very groovy and funky, like all of his stuff. He's got so many solo records, and some of them are really fun, some of them are kind of like okay. And for a while, he was just putting out so many of them that like they all started to sound the same. But I like the fact that he waited a bit to put this one out. And this comes, right around the time here. This is the Black Country Communion era. This is the Dead Daisies era, right? So he's been pretty busy with a lot of stuff. But to me, this one is his heaviest. It's got great songs like Heavy and My Town are so good. Flow is great on here. How Long, When I Fall. Start to finish, really, really good. And I remember thinking, this is so great. I can't wait for the next one. And we're still waiting for the next one. But I think he's got one that he's working on. So I think we should see that. Hopefully this year or next year. But just a great singer, one of my all-time favorite singers, a hell of a bass player. And God, you look at the career, whether it's with Deep Purple or the Great Trapeze, which is such an underrated band, his short stint in Black Sabbath, the album with Gary Moore, Hughes Thrall. I mean, we can go on and on, all the Black Country Communion albums. What an amazing, amazing career. And a guy by all rights probably should be dead right now with all he put himself through for all those years with his addictions. But he has come back in a major way, and he's been a force to be reckoned with over the last 30 years since he's gotten sober, and he sounds better than ever. And there's no slowing down for the man named Glenn.
No, I totally agree. The guy's lost nothing, none of his range at all.
No.
It's absolutely force of nature, really.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing vocalist and artist.
Yep. So yeah, Resonate was my next pick. Killer album.
It's a good one.
Those two albums that he did with Iommi are phenomenal.
Oh,
they are, yeah. Well, yeah,
awesome.
Sessions and the follow-up Fused. I wanted to grab those, but being that really it's a duo and not an Iommi solo.
I thought about that too, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't reach for it, but when I was thinking about, Iommi and solo material, I wanted to grab something from that. But Glenn Hughes puts everything over the top, in my opinion. When he joined the Dead Daisies, couldn't believe what a level, a great band already, but vocally and just that first album that he did with them, absolutely amazing.
That was the one. Yeah, that first one. Yeah. The second one's okay, but the first one is
the first one's got it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm waiting for him to do another disco album, so I'm not. I like his disco work.
Do you know what, Grant? I reckon deep down inside he wants to do that, and I think when he did Play Me Out and he did the album Feel and the one about the underground kitchen one. I think deep down he wants his funk stuff to be a success. Yeah. I think I think sometimes he's dragged back.
The guy can sing anything though.
He can
even when he's singing disco.
Yeah.
I'm listening to it and I'm going, yeah.
Let's not forget, he'll tell be the first to tell you he is a funk R&B and soul guy. That's what he likes.
Probably dug doing that stuff.
Yeah, He realized no one was buying it, and it's like Deep Purple Trap will forever haunt me, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think
that Four on the Floor album that came out on Casablanca, which pretty much was considered a disco label.
Very true. Yeah,
with Kiss on it.
Yeah.
But there was a disco label, but Four on the Floor had Jeff Skunk Baxter playing guitar on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were musicians. If you listen to it from a musical perspective and listening to the chops of the players on the record, there's some great playing on the disco record. I'm just saying.
I'm absolutely sure if that had been a success, then a lot of the other albums we've just mentioned wouldn't have happened. He'd have gone down that route. He'd have been gone.
You never know. Could have been a Michael Bolton and did that.
Yeah. Everything. Okay, Grant. What's your next one?
My one, I think this record came out in 1975. And I don't know, but I think this record's absolutely brilliant. And what can I say? You got Bill Bruford playing on it. You got Patrick Moraz playing on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Criss Squire, Fish Out of Water. One of the best Yes albums ever.
I grabbed it.
It's. Would you say it was almost as better than some of the Yes stuff?
100%.
Yeah.
When I hear this, it sounds like Yes to me because Criss Squire, even though he didn't sing lead, his vocal blend and his harmony vocals were so much part of Yes as much as John Anderson. He can carry this by himself, and his bass playing is so predominant. Oh my God. The bass playing on this is some of Criss Squire's best work, I think. And it's right up front, and you've got orchestration. You got Bill Bruford playing drums on it.
Yeah.
This record.
And you don't miss the guitar on that album.
And you don't miss the guitar on it. No. Absolutely stunning. This is the Esoteric, 2 CD, so it's got a remix, which I don't think it needed remixed. And then it's got the original mix, and then it's got
this is the super duper version with the vinyl and the Blu-ray, etc.
There you go. This is just the CD version.
Yeah, but I mean those tracks, Silently Falling and Lucky Seven.
And he's such a great songwriter. And I could listen to Criss Squire sing all day. There's something about his voice that is very soothing. I find it very soothing. I kind of wish he sang more on the Yes albums, actually take a lead vocal,
He could have. Yeah.
He is, as far as I'm concerned, Criss Squire is Yes, because he had that trademark sound. He was so big and a part of it that I don't know.
That's what's missing from the current Yes. As much as I love what they're doing, and I love Steve Howe and the other guys that have come in, and they're doing a great job, it's missing Criss Squire. It's missing that role.
He was the heart.
that sings the way that he did, harmonizing, and the bass playing. What is it? Billy Sherwood is playing bass, and he does a great job, but it just doesn't, I don't know, grab me the same way that Criss Squire did. And I've always felt that that's the lacking here. If they could have a guy that was like that, maybe bring over Richie Castellano from John Anderson's Band Geeks, right? That album and the bass playing on there, that guy sounds exactly like Criss Squire. Bring him over, put him into Yes. And
I think bring Geddy Lee in and have Geddy bring his Rickenbacker out and have Geddy play.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to do all that. I have been saying for years, Billy Sherwood is a fine bass player. He's also a fine singer. He was best friends with Criss Squire. He knows the ins and outs of what made Criss Squire tick. I think the band, Yes, is purposefully not allowing him to do more in the band. That's just my take on it.
Well, it is odd that he's playing bass in there. He previously played guitar with them on Open Your Eyes, played keyboards. He had different roles during the Union album, and he had far greater roles than what he's doing now. But you might be right. They're holding him back. I totally think they're holding Jeff Downes back.
I think he has all of the tools to bring that Criss Squire sound to the current incarnation of Yes. I don't understand for the life of me why Steve Howe is singing lead and backing vocals on all these Yes albums in recent years when you've got Billy Sherwood, who is a much better singer. And they don't allow him to do all those kind of cool lead bass stuff that Criss Squire done. He can do it. I don't understand it. Like they
don't get it.
Purposefully kind of keeping him on the sidelines there when I think that I agree with you. What's missing from current Yes is Criss Squire. I think Billy Sherwood, why bring him in the band? He was like this with Criss Squire. They worked together for so many years. If you're not going to utilize him in that same way, I'll get off my soapbox there. But that to me is what's missing from current Yes. I don't want to hear
Steve Howe band. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's
what it is.
It is. Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised that album came up.
The albums, Pete.
It's brilliant.
You have the two Conspiracy albums with Criss Squire and Billy Sherwood.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of the Billy Sherwood solo stuff and all the various bands he's had. He's got that. Him and Criss were kind of cut from the same cloth, so to speak. So and then that's the reason why they were such good friends. So I don't understand why Yes is not utilizing him more.
Yeah, that's the one album so far that I was expecting to come up was Fish Out of Water. I think because I think it's that. It's that important.
I would say too. I think about this a lot. You look at all the Yes solo albums. If you take those two Bruford albums out of the way, because to me that was a band, even though it's got his name on it. I always kind of think of that not so much as a solo record, but like as a band. Right. I think the Fish Out of Water is clearly the best Yes solo album out of any of them.
Oh, by leaps and bounds.
More than Elias' Sunhillow. I like it more than any of the Steve Howe albums. I mean, maybe there's a Patrick Moraz album that might be a little stronger. Yeah, I mean, Elias is great, right? But I find I listen to Fish Out of Water way more.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
So, Brendan, what's your next one on the list?
All right. So this is my replacement album since Pete stole my very good
Sorry.
Well. Oh, well.
All right. So former Byrds member Roger McGuinn doing Rio, 1991. So 6th solo album. It had been 14 years since he had done a solo album, Thunderbird in 77. I don't know why he was taking a break or whatnot, except that solo material really wasn't going anywhere. And I think this was due to a lot of the guests that are on here, Tom Petty and a lot of the Heartbreakers in particularly, really bringing him back to get him to do something because, they felt, his stature and who he was really missing from what could be out there. And so on here, you've got Tom Petty, Mike Campbell, Stan Lynch, Benmont Tench, Chris Hillman, and David Crosby from the Byrds on here, Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles, Elvis Costello, Stan Ridgway from Wall of Voodoo. I mean, so many great people came out to play and co-write with him on here. But for me, it was the song King of the Hill that is a duet with Tom Petty on it that really grabbed me at that time, made me a fan of it, not because he was formerly of the Byrds or anything like that. Remember, this is my era when I was coming up in music, and I'm just seeing this on, I don't know if it's MTV or VH1 Classics, but seeing the video for that with Tom Petty and, Roger McGuinn, and loving the song enough to go out and just buy this. And then, of course, later finding out that Roger McGuinn, he's a famous guy from the Byrds, and all that sort of stuff that he did on the side, those albums with Chris Hillman and I forget the other gentleman, but they had their sort of Byrds reunion stuff. This album, though, 1991, so good. Came out, did a little bit of something at the time, and then kind of fell away. And he's never done another solo album since then. He's made some artist in, I don't know what you call it. He records on his couch, straight one take kind of things, extremely raw. And he did a bunch of those sort of things, but no follow-up album ever since 1991. Real shame.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw him on that tour.
Did you? Wow, that's cool. I saw him a few years later in a small club in Janus Landing in Tampa, Florida, about 1,500 people, and got to carry his guitar for him back to his car, got a hot dog with him, had a nice chat. It was cool. It's the kind of place you could wait outside where the club entrance was, going to leave, and I just waited until he came out.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, had a little extra fun.
That's brilliant.
Tom Petty's idol, and he said what a thrill it was to participate in that with them.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, my next one is another American guitarist. As far as I'm aware, this is his only solo album, and it is Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult.
Another one I almost grabbed.
Flat out. I do have the Rock Candy one somewhere, but I can't find it. So this is a Wounded Bird, one of the first
that's
CDs.
The one I have too.
That's the one I've got too. Wounded Bird beat Rock Candy to a lot of these, and I
think they did, didn't they?
Rock Candy editions. I just can't bring myself to shell out to replace it.
This is it's.
I
don't know whether Blue Oyster Cult kind of were a bit miffed that it felt like that Buck had kept a lot of his good songs to one side for his solo album, because that's how it feels to me. It feels like more like a Blue Oyster Cult album than a Blue Oyster Cult album did around that either side of this, really. Born to Rock, that summer night, Cold Wind is fantastic, and my favorite track is Your Loving Heart, which is a great soap opera, isn't it? It's the guy in hospital waiting for a heart transplant, and then it's his partner that goes outside and gets knocked down by a truck, and he has her heart and everything. Just don't watch the video on YouTube. It's horrendous. it's typical of its time, but just use your imagination. But it's the guitar playing on that, and the literally almost orchestration of the guitar solos is just fantastic. And Anwar's theme, the instrumental, that's also fantastic. I just think it's a very balanced album. This is, I think it's, and his voice as well, everything about it. Very Blue Oyster Culty. Yeah.
I wish there were more from him. He's my favorite person. I like his songs better in there. I think he has a better voice. And he makes this great album that I think was better than some of the Blue Oyster Cult albums that came right before and right after it. Yeah. So I go to this a lot. I consider it a Blue Oyster Cult album as far as I'm concerned. But no more solo. I don't get it. And he's never on the albums enough as I want him on the album. I always want more from what he does.
It's amazing, all the years of inactivity for Blue Oyster Cult, like during the 90s and whatnot, like he couldn't pump out any more solo records.
20 years, I think, right? Between albums from the 90s up until when they made the return. And we get one new album and one, collection of topping songs off from old. And then that's it, right? They said they're done. That was the cap to everything. And I'm like, you made this great return and then we don't get any more.
Yeah, very true. So that's
a great album.
Yeah,
that was a good hit.
Fantastic album. Right,
that video is horrendous.
It is, isn't it?
Did that come out on
We could probably throw that in the trash with that Feel It Again by Honeymoon Suite video we were talking about yesterday, right? Those are some of these awful videos.
Yes.
I
know, there's a few
was that on Columbia? I mean,
yes, it was on Portrait.
Originally,
it was on Portrait imprint of
Portrait,
CBS Records in the UK.
Is that an original from you?
Yeah, this is an original, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I remember seeing it in the dollar bins back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But not a lot, but it was always in the dollar bins. And I never picked it up.
Well,
Didn't
to
sell
be
any.
fair, Grant, this is how I bought it. Was because it was about 99p in the bin where they didn't sell. So that's why I got a hot copy. It says home taping is killing music. You know, it's the original.
Did you ever buy a cassette version of it?
No, I did. I didn't.
Because a lot of us, it's like, we have it on vinyl, then you had to buy it on cassette, then the CD, then you get the Rock Candy Records a remaster. And it's like,
No.
Will it ever end?
I know.
never
I'm
ends.
at the point now where I'm like, I don't know if I can buy another one of these.
Oh, yes, you can, Brendan. Look at
Tell yourself that about 3 weeks. You'll be like, oh, guess what's coming? The Rock Candy reissue of it. All right.
Yeah, exactly. And because I've mentioned the fact there's a Rock Candy one, and somebody said, "Oh no, I've got the Wounded Bird one." It's in our subconscious now, thinking maybe I should get the Rock Candy.
Curse is real, gentlemen. Because you start thinking, you're like, well, the Rock Candy reissues, there's no extra tracks, but it's got that great booklet with all those wonderful essay.
The art,
$12.99. I gotta get it.
That could be it.
We need to do an episode on albums that we own the most copies of.
Oh, geez.
I already can tell you what it is.
I think I've got 6 versions, including different remasters, 20th anniversary, 30th anniversary, box sets.
I think some of us might need to be careful about who else is in earshot of us when we start talking about something. We've got multiple. You know what I mean?
We'll film that on a different channel, and you don't about it.
Yeah, but if you ever went out and bought stuff because you didn't. Well, it depends on how organized you are. Have you bought something that you've already had and you thought, I don't think I have it? Well, I'm going to get it, but then you end up finding out that you
happened
have it.
Occasionally, not as often as I would think, but it has.
Yeah, I would say
rare.
I'll number 5 times, number one hand kind of thing, where it's like I really legitimately didn't think I have it. Got home, was totally shocked.
Yeah, I think that is a red flag, everybody. If that starts to happen,
it is a red
album
flag.
that has a different cover. Originally to this was that it's that kind of thing. It didn't happen with this one. I bought this one because I wanted the original cover of this. But a lot of times when that happens to me, it's different album cover. Maybe it's even a different title. And you're thinking, oh, I don't have this. Right. And then you get home and you're going through the collection and it's like, oh my God, I do. These are the same album. There's just one's a US pressing, one was a UK thing.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
I'll have for whatever reason, I can't find something. And I'm like, I don't know where it is. And I go out and rebuy it again. And once
and you find it.
I'm going through, I'm like, there it is. I put it back in the place. I'm like, damn it.
Now that does happen a lot.
You find it like a few days later. For me, I can look for a week or 2 or a month and finally give up and say, I don't know where it is. Maybe I sold it. Go buy it. I'll find it a few days later.
It always works out that way.
Murphy's Law, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I mean, a month. That's kind of like longer than a missing person account.
Yeah.
I get worked up when I can't find an album and I know I have it. And then finally I'm like, and I really want to hear it. I'm like, screw it. It's worth it to me to buy it because I want to hear it so bad right now.
And you know where it's supposed to be, right on the shelf.
Yeah,
you get the flashlight out, and you're like, "All right." Maybe I just put it a couple, and then you look everywhere, and you can't find it. Like, screw it, I'm going to go and order it, and then boom, it turns up. It's like, oh, it was supposed to be in C, and somehow it wound up in F. How did I do? Damn it! Yeah.
Sometimes it happens when I'm pulling albums out to get ready for a show,
and they don't go back in the right place, right?
Yeah, well, I
do that all the time
because I'm like, oh, I'm collecting albums. This might, I want to talk about this, whatever. And I don't know it's there, and I hunt everywhere. Yeah. And it's right there in a stack that I'm not looking at because, exactly.
Grant knows.
Yeah, been there, done
and
that.
the stack gets bigger and bigger, and then I'm looking at it, and I got to go, I'm going to have to put these back.
Yeah. And nothing worse when you get back to that spot and you already filled it because you're like, oh, hey, there's a void here. I can put it in. And you don't remember that it belongs to another CD. And I just did that. I had these pulled out and I spent yesterday organizing and getting everything, and all my shelving space is taken up. And I went back to file one away that I decided I wasn't going to talk about. Don Barnes solo album from 38
Oh.
Steps for guitar. So that was one I was going to talk about, and I decided not to. And I went to file it on the shelf, and there's no space for it. So it's like, damn it.
Well, Brendan, I'm glad you brought up the Don Barnes solo album, because I've been wanting to buy that and I keep forgetting to get it.
It is so worth it. Plus, there's two mixes of it. There's the original mix that the label did at the time, and then it was shelved. And when they decided to re-release it, they did a new mix on it just to bring it current. So that's Melodic Rock Records label that has it. I'm quite sure it's out of print by now, but you probably can track one down. Yeah, I was going to talk about it. I just decided I didn't want to do all the research into figuring out, label and year and all that kind of information that I like to give with it. I knew I had these other ones ready to go, so I just was.
I don't think this panel will be functioning properly if we didn't sort of make Grant buy something in every episode.
I'm probably going to buy Don Barnes today.
I'm waiting.
And well, I did recently pick up that Michael Bolton first album, because I don't know how that came up. I don't know if Brendan mentioned it, or
if I could thrill you with the Freddie Salem and the Wildcats from the Outlaws. This is the one and only album he did there.
There we go. Grant's in trouble now.
Almost grabbed that one too, Pete, for the same thing.
I haven't heard it.
Speaking of rock candy, right? Because we can't stop talking about.
Would you just get a rock candy shipment in, Pete?
Yeah, it'll be here any day. The new one will be here any day.
Okay.
Well, we're going to Grant. You should plug. We're going to be filming an episode on Rock Candy Records releases.
Oh.
Because we talk about it so much. So
just trying to talk about the ones we don't.
Yeah, so you guys get your stuff ready. You can be on it too if you want.
You should.
You like rock? You should be on it.
Okay.
I'll send you the details.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So Pete, let's move on to the next one.
Sorry, guys.
Well, that was a tangent, boys.
That was a tangent
right there, right?
Yeah,
sorry.
But hopefully it should have helped a few people out in viewerland as well. I would hope.
I think so. Yes, I think so.
So.
Holy cow! All right, 1975. Steve Hackett, Voyage of the Acolyte.
Yeah.
It's low hanging fruit for me, but I could not do this episode without it. It's one of my favorite solo albums of all time. He's still in Genesis at the time. This is his first solo record, first of many, as we've seen all these years. But to me, this is like the long lost Genesis album, because basically this is filled with songs that he brought to Genesis that they just said, nah, it's not really going to fit on Wind and Wuthering or Trick of the Tail or whatever. And he's like, all right, I'll just do a solo album. I'll even grab a few of you to help me out with the solo album. Mike and Phil, come help out, right? It's terrific. It's just so in the Genesis mold, but with a lot more guitar. Like Ace of Wands is terrific. Hands of the Priestess, Tower Struck Down, Shadow of the Hierophant. Great guitar work, loads of mellotron, cool vocals. It's proggy, it's folky, it's pastoral, it's high energy in spots. It's amazing. I love the production. Absolutely love the album cover art. It's just so typical of the time period. One of the great prog albums of all time, and perhaps my favorite prog solo record of all time. Oh. It's up there. If it's not number one, it's number two. So I had to pick this. Steve Hackett, Voyage of the Apple.
I love albums.
I was expecting that one to appear.
That's up there too,
well, that's
Phil.
A good one too.
That's my number two. Yep.
I love the solo albums that are ones that, like you said, that they went to the band with tracks. They were turned down, so they weren't held back. There's no ill will between it. And he says, okay, well, they're not for this. I'm going to make a solo album. So essentially it's the what if that could have been a Genesis album. And there's so many people playing on it from the band that essentially it is. So those are my favorite. I always like the what if scenarios.
Yeah. And ironically, the guy who's not on this album is Tony Banks.
Ah.
Which, if you read interviews and stories about the history of Genesis, he's kind of the guy who always held Steve Hackett back a little bit. It's like, I don't know if we could use that. Maybe you should play a little less guitar in there. Kind of makes sense, right? And so after he did this album, I think Steve was kind of like, I think I can do this on my own, and that's kind of like, so after Wind and Wuthering, he's like, bye guys,
Right.
Very true. Right, Grant, what's your next one on your list?
My next one, holy crap, this came out in 1982. It kind of came out to mixed reviews, I think. I think probably the critics, maybe the public probably was expecting something else. I think I think this is absolutely his best solo album of the bunch, because it's very cohesive. The songs flow together. The sequencing's good. And it's just top notch. It just seems like Pete Townsend in his purest form, ladies and gentlemen. All the best cowboys have Chinese eyes. I think this is a phenomenal record. It's very introspective. It's produced by Chris Thomas, which is a plus. The sea refuses no river. Very poetic. It's lush orchestration. It just seems like this whole record is just like an artistic statement. None of these songs could have been in the Who. None of these would be Who songs. But this is where Pete was in his life right then, But Slip Skirt,
I thought that one might turn up actually.
I like this better.
Yeah, I would have to go the first one there, but both together, phenomenal.
Both are great. Yeah, I mean,
I dig this better. But whatever, because this just seems like a more cohesive record. Where the other one, you could break it down.
Yeah,
it seems more of just like a collection of songs. Where this feels like a work.
Right.
Well, it's a more personal album, and it feels more like a solo album. Like I picked this as an honorable, but this to me sounds more like a Who album.
Yeah, because that sounds like
and I think people were expecting another one of those, and they got this.
You got that. So, Which,
I got right when I bought it, right in the beginning. I got it right off. I loved it. So, this is what it is, but I dig it.
I remember thinking Pete Townsend with a flying V. That's
yeah.
I've always
and then he's got the double neck on the back.
I know, right? It's like, what's that all about?
Yeah.
Plus, it's like a 58 V, so it's
it's a Carina. Yeah,
it's
brilliant. Right, Brendan, next.
All right, next one. Another one ran under the radar, but absolutely love this. Of course, got into the main band first, just wanted more. Who did solo albums? Surprisingly, this band has not done a lot. Their various members have not done a lot solo-wise. So Doobie Brothers guitarist Patrick Simmons, Arcade from 1983. First one post Doobie Brothers breaking up. And it's basically a Doobie Brothers album because he has all of them playing on it. Tom Johnson sings on vocals. Michael McDonald is on keyboards. John McPhee on guitar. Willie Weeks bass. And Bobby Lakin on congas is on here. But he doesn't stop there. He's got all these other great guests. Bill Payne from Little Feat on keyboards, who later becomes a member. He's currently in the lineup with these guys. Nicky Hopkins is in there. John Elefante from Kansas. Jeff Baxter on guitar is here. Mike Baird from Eddie Money, Rick Springfield. So the list goes on, and it just, I don't know. This album here strikes me more than the last few Doobie Brothers albums that they made at that time, to where if they had made an album like this, who knows what would have happened with those guys. But I think he's made 2 more solo albums, but years later, years apart from all this, doesn't sound like this. But if you want Doobie Brothers style music sounding album, this right here, hands down, it really gets me going. The song's So Wrong and Don't Make Me Do It, top tier. Listen to those songs if you're a Doobie Brothers fan.
Is there, because I think on that CD version, isn't there about 3 versions of So Wrong, or there's an extra version? Is there like a disco track? I think no.
Nah, this one here is one of those Japanese reissue. It's on Elektra, so I don't think it's part of that Universal Japan where they've been doing the domestic versions.
Yeah, there's a new version of it with this couple of extra tracks on it, and there's So Wrong. There's like a 12-inch mix on there, which is and an instrumental version as well.
Yeah, just the album versions, but it replicated all everything. It's a remastering. Came out a few years back. There's not a year on it from when it came out, but when I got it at the time, it had just been reissued and blew my mind.
No, it's brilliant.
Yeah, probably out of everything that I'm talking about here today, this is the album I go back to often. This is an album, Grant, that I've had put aside for our underrated and obscure albums that I just never get to because there's always something else for us to talk about. But I would highly recommend that.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to it, Brendan.
Yeah.
To me, he is the most important member of the Doobie Brothers. Always has been.
Yeah.
Such a versatile player and singer. And if you folks, either everybody here or watching, have not read the recent autobiography from Patrick and Tom. They did a book together about the history of the Doobie Brothers. It's a must read. It's so good, and you'll really get an appreciation for Pat Simmons, the person, the player, the songwriter, from reading that book. Really, really good. Say, great guy, great guy.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I got lucky where most people out there that watch my channel know this, but I'm an architect, and so I do apartments and things around New York City. And one of my clients grew up with Bill Payne. And so when he was with the Doobies, I got to go to the Classic East concert that took place in New York when they had the Eagles on it and the Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan, and I forget who else. So I got lucky to get backstage to meet all these guys. And Patrick Simmons was the most down-to-earth guy. Just sat down, had nice conversations. It wasn't anything like, oh, let's talk music or let's do this. He was just a normal guy, and he was having the time of his life. He was going around like taking pictures and stealing the signs that say Doobie Brothers on it and stuff. I want to take this home. I mean, he was acting like a music fan, but he's in the Doobie Brothers. And it was just really refreshing to see a guy this late into his career who was that excited about the music, what it is that he got to do, and yet was so down to earth. I spent literally hours with him, talking, eating, just hanging out, because he was a normal. I can't say enough nice things.
How cool is that?
Great story.
Yeah.
That's also interesting. I think as this panel's got together a few times, the Doobies have come up in 3 separate shows as well. Yeah. I mean,
Friday, June 6th, the new Doobie Brothers comes out, and it's the first one with Michael McDonald since 1980, 40 years since he has appeared on a full album without just like a guest spot.
No. Wow. I love every lineup of them. I love every period of the Doobies.
I'll be getting that for sure.
Great music.
Yeah.
So that Patrick Simmons has that been released domestically here? You said that's a Japanese import?
Yeah, it must have been.
But it was domestic.
I don't remember. I don't ever remember.
It's a domestic release of the Japanese. It's like the Universal.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
The only reason I'm saying it must have been is I bought it on vinyl first, and it was an American import. And then the CD I've got is an American import with the extra tracks.
All I've ever seen is the vinyl of it.
Yeah. So. Right, I'm going to stick with another American guitarist, 1988 this time, and it's.
I almost picked that one too. A great choice.
Yeah, so good, so good.
Ronnie Montrose, Speed of Sound. Obviously, for Ronnie, we got lots of guitarists around this time doing instrumental albums, weren't they? Satriani, and I just feel that in a way, he got overshadowed by them. Because at this period, Ronnie Montrose's guitar tone has ticked so many boxes. And when me and Pete did music that defines a guitarist, I picked something from this called 0G, which it's just beautiful. I think he just flicked through a book on aviation and picked anything that took his fancy for the song titles. But it's just, as an instrumental album, guitarist album, it's not boring. It's not just shredding. It's not showing off. It's not just ego driven. It's actually emotional, emotive, and absolutely classic playing. Really, he's taking that guitar tone that he developed with Gamma and the solo albums before this, Territory, and taking it to this, I think, is the pinnacle of what he did, really, in the solo albums. The one after this was it Devastation, which kind of stutters a bit. It's kind of not quite as coherent, and the Mutatis Mutandis comes next, which is pretty cool. But this one, I think, if I was going to direct anybody to explore Ronnie Montrose outside of the Montrose album and Gamma, then this is where to go. I think this is Wounded Bird as well, actually.
I think that was originally on Enigma, if I remember correctly.
That's right. Yeah.
I bought that on cassette when it first came out.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah.
So was the Wounded Bird released the first time it was released on CD?
I think this is a Wounded Bird version I've got here. I don't think it's been
because I've never
remastered.
I've got the Enigma version.
Great album.
What's the album he did before that?
I think that was Territory, wasn't it?
And Territory,
yeah, with Edgar Winters on it.
But I love it.
Yeah,
I've only been able to get that one in one of those 5 CD pack. They're all in a slim, cardboard case, and you get the 4 Montrose, and then you
that's that's with Open Fire, isn't it? The instrument from 1978.
Yeah, that is a great one in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that led me to then track down all of these versions. And I found some guy on eBay selling that one and 2 others in there, and I just bought it as a lot.
I think Mr. Montrose would kind of he was on the edge of success, and then he'd suddenly look around and see people were wanting him to do that again, and he just thought, I'm not doing that again. And he just changed direction.
Yeah. Look at the follow-up Montrose. Was it Fire? What is that called?
Yeah, Paper Money, yeah.
If you read Martin Popoff's book on Ronnie Montrose, that's exactly how it went. He would do something that would be somewhat successful, and then he'd be like, I need to move on to something else. And I think he sabotaged his own career that way.
Big time.
He should have been an enormous musician.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he should have been, yeah.
The Gamma stuff was great. That first, he should have rode the success. I mean, granted, it wasn't a big commercial breakthrough at the time, but that first Montrose album and that band, that should have been his band throughout the whole 70s.
Absolutely.
100%.
We'd be talking about him in a completely different light if that had happened.
Yeah. I mean, there's one of the rarest albums to buy on CD by him is when he reformed. Well, he did another album under the name Montrose, which is Mean. Do you remember that one, Mean? Just with a big M on the front.
It's got Johnny Edwards singing.
Yeah, but I almost felt he was kind of half-hearted in his approach to that.
Oh, I don't know. I love that album, but it is so
good.
Hard on CD. I've got a vinyl copy, but that's one of my holy grails. I'm still hunting down a CD on that one.
Tick and me, Brent. I cannot find one. Not without spending like silly money. Yeah,
I found one once, and it arrived, and it wasn't too badly priced, and it was in horrific condition when it arrived, and I sent it back, and I was just so bummed because I had it in my hand. I was like,
I'm never going to find this again.
Yeah, I know. I should keep it.
But did it play though? Did it play?
It did. Yeah, no, it did. But the booklet was just beat to hell. And I need pristine. And I was paying a pretty penny. It might have been like $40-$50 or something. And I just was like, I'm not doing it for that.
I mean, what kind of life had that CD had to be beaten up like that? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they liked it evidently.
Yeah.
Or they didn't like it.
Or it was in the basement in a box and they got something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was water damage. I mean, it was just whole 9 yards. The thing was in bad shape.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on to the final one now, Pete. What's it going to be?
All right. So again, there's so much to choose from, but this kind of stuck out at me, and I think this guy has had some really, really good solo albums to great solo albums. And then I was like, all right, which one do I pick? But ultimately, I kind of side with his 1998 solo album. It's Bruce Dickinson, Chemical Wedding.
Okay. I'm surprised, but
I picked Accident at Birth. Right, that's really great too.
Accident at Birth is where I would have gone, but.
Yeah, I like them both, but this one is just dark and heavy, and I really like it. And I think this has got Adrian Smith on it and Roy Z, who I think make a really, really good guitar pairing. Yeah. And there's just some classic tracks on here. I mean, King and Crimson, Book of Thel is just absolutely epic. Machine Man is great. The Alchemist. To me, this albums like this and Accident at Birth, I think, are arguably better than a lot of the Iron Maiden albums that have come out in the last 20 years. And I like all those albums, but Bruce was really onto something in his solo career around this time. I think all those albums he did in the 90s, I'm not a huge fan of Skunk Works, but most of the other ones are really, really strong. And I love this album. Darker production. It's pretty heavy. It's arguably prog metal-y in spots, but just so many great tracks on here. Trumpets of Jericho, just really, really good. And he sounds amazing. And he's got a really great band here. So yeah, had to go with some Dickinson. I went with Chemical Wedding.
I got to say, though, I love Skunk Works. And that was actually...
A lot of people I know do. I don't know. It was a little too different for me.
It was very different. It was alternative metal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It worked for some reason for me. I reached for that one a lot. But that was also a band. Skunk Works was a band. But of course, the label required the Bruce Dickinson and then named the album Skunk Works. So it wasn't meant to be that. So kind of one of those things. But I almost grabbed his latest album. I absolutely love that album. It was my number 2 album that year. The only thing that beat it was the Deep Purple. So
interesting.
I just looked up the Mean album on Discogs to see what we had available.
Yeah,
everything's in Europe. you'd be spending to get it here in the States anywhere between 80 and $100 for a CD version.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Where is Rock Candy when we come to that one?
Yeah, I know.
That's a darn good.
Get to work.
Since they've already put out other things, but that was on Enigma.
Yeah.
So
Enigma?
The original label, yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, it was on
it was on Enigma.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the problem, because they might have were able to license the Warner Brothers stuff.
But even the Electra stuff for Gamma, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know. So Enigma's, well, that would be Universal now.
That's true.
Well, I've talked to some of these labels, and Rock Candy in particular, not about the Montrose stuff, but when there's ones I'm saying, why haven't you guys done this? What, have you looked into it, kind of thing? Sometimes they have, and the answers that have come back usually is the artist isn't interested in releasing it because they don't own the music or the rights to it. Therefore, getting it out doesn't actually make them any money. And the label is asking so much for it, it doesn't benefit the label in putting it out. They're not going to sell enough to make the money back. So you don't have the artist behind it helping you out with it. You're going through the label, and then if it's too much money. And so they've walked away from a number of these, even when they've reissued other stuff by that artist, and it's been successful. So that's I know the case with, you guys know the band White Sister?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about that, wanting to get the second album back in print. Bad Reputation Records out of France reissued it. I think Rock Candy also. The amount of money that's being asked for the second album apparently is astronomical, and the band members don't own any of that. So they're not going to get behind it because they can't. They're not going to make anything from it, and the label's just saying it's too much. But that was straight from Eric Cunard, the owner of Bad Reputation Records, as to why they haven't done it. Although he said it was 3 years ago that he looked into it, and he's going to try again and see maybe if, because nobody's licensed it, no one's done it, do they want to drop the price? So
yeah,
because it was on a different label. It was on FM, where the first album was on EMI America, Enigma.
Yeah,
this was on a different label, so different rules.
I'm going to try to get the guy on my channel just to talk about things like that. The records,
that'd be good.
That'd be good.
Yeah. Right, Grant, what's your
all right? My number one. This probably is my number one.
Oh, cool.
Because I think the more I live and the more I play this record, the more I like it. And we're going to go with 1982's Pictures at 11 from Robert Plant.
Yeah.
Just between us girls here on this channel, just between us girls. Don't let anybody know. But I probably like this more than Led Zeppelin.
Wow.
Don't tell anybody.
Okay, no one.
But I love it.
You've been hanging out with Mark Popoff too much.
Yeah.
I love this record. God dang, Robert Plant's the man.
I do like his
songs are great. The production's great. You've got Phil and Cozy Powell playing drums on it. Well, right there, I'm sold. Robbie Blunt, The Secret Weapon. What a brilliant guitar player.
Yeah.
Most of this record, he's just playing his Strat in the fourth position clean, the whole record. It's just, if you're a guitar player, this really is a guitar album, because I think Robbie Blunt, you've got it's a Robert Plant album, but I almost look at it as an equal Robbie Blunt album. I swear to God.
That's the guy from Silverhead, isn't it? Is he the guy from Silverhead, Robbie Blunt, was he?
Like in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Band?
Yeah, with Michael DeBar's band, yeah.
Yeah, I've got that. I didn't know that was the guitar player. I'm going to have to go pull that out now.
But I think Burning Down One Side, that was the lead single. Great song. Pledge Pin. It's like one hit after another, even though maybe these weren't hits. But back in the day, they got a lot of play on FM rock radio, and I very rarely hear any of this anymore. But I love the whole thing. It still stands up. Even though this was like from 82, it's still...
Robbie, I know you can't see it, but Robbie Blunt, Silverhead. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great guitar player.
Yep.
I love the Robert Plant catalog. He seemed to venture okay after Led Zeppelin. He seemed to be okay. But I love this record.
Fan of Fate of Nations. That one was that 93, I think. I love that album. Heavy album.
Yeah.
29
Robert
Palm.
Plant's the man.
Yeah.
Get the Nine Lives box set is worth getting, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have that.
Like what he's doing today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
the thing is with he does what he wants to do.
It's more world music style stuff these days, but I don't know, man. It works. Very rhythmic.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the version of, there's a live clip on YouTube with him and Alison Krauss doing Battle of Evermore?
No. I've not seen that. No.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
It's good. I think I would go see them if they would ever come around here. But it just seems like he's doing what he wants. He's at a good place in his life.
Yeah, he's always pushed the whole Led Zeppelin thing away to do something else completely separate from it. I think he did really well for stepping aside and doing something other than Led Zeppelin, and was successful. I mean, Tall Cool One. What was the other one? He did have a couple legitimate hits that shot up the charts. And I am surprised, too, that you don't hear the hits from those albums. They're just gone. The radio doesn't play them.
Yeah.
It's just so, those first two Robert Plant albums are so good.
Why I don't listen to radio? They don't know what they're doing.
I like it. The longer I live, the more I like it. I don't know why, because back in the day, I didn't really pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
But then
that happens.
I don't know. Just kind of took hold of me.
Okay, Brendan, what's your
all right? My last
choice or number one?
I'm a little surprised nobody brought it up, but maybe you don't feel the same way I do. That's all right. Former Rainbow vocalist Lynn Turner, Rescue You from 1986. First thing he did after leaving Rainbow, of course, that was so that Deep Purple could get back together. The part of the reason, I mean, it's a great album. It is a keyboard-laden album, but the keyboardist is Alan Greenwood from Foreigner. So you've got him on here. You've got Chuck Burgee on drums, who played with Rainbow. I think it was later Rainbow that he played with, but Bobby Mazzano from Stars. Yeah, so it's kind of like a super group. This one being Wounded Bird Records. I don't know if Rock Candy did their version. Seems like it goes from Wounded Bird to Rock Candy, licensed the way that they licensed it. But I've had this for years, and it's just one of those albums that, even though it doesn't sound like Rainbow, it is just such a great album. All the way through the songwriting on it. You can check out the title track. I mean, that in and of itself will tell you what this album is. But each of the songs on here after that are just as good. So really stands up for me.
Yeah, Rock Candy put it out in 2021, and Wounded Bird did it in 2004.
Interesting.
Not sure which one's cheaper.
I got this when it came out in 2004. So I feel like at least it doesn't come out like a year later on Rock Candy. It's like, okay, good. I've had this for 17 years or however long before they finally did their version.
And that was produced by Roy Thomas Baker.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, this should have been huge, in my opinion. I don't know why it wasn't. Coming off of the 3 albums that he did with Rainbow, Difficult to Cure, Straight Through Between the Eyes, and Been Out of Shape, it should have. It has that sound.
In the UK, I think he was seen a bit too much as a bit too cabaret on his live presence on stage compared with our kind of more trad British vocalists, and I think that kind of wound some of the UK audience up a bit. But his voice is fantastic. I mean, I think I'm one of the few people that like Slaves and Masters, but he had a hard run then as well with Purple. But I think he's. I mean, one of our previous shows, we had Malmsteen's album with him on it. I think he's a great vocalist, and he's superb sense of. And those albums he did with Glenn Hughes, he did about 2, didn't he?
Yeah, the Hughes Turner project.
Yeah, the Hughes Turner project. Those are good, aren't they?
Yeah.
All right, I just bought one.
Did you get the Rock Candy version?
No, I bought Wounded Bird because it was cheaper.
Oh, okay. Because I think it was.
And all the Rock Candy ones are in Europe, and I can get a Wounded Bird here. And
I think they're selling it for $12.99 on Rock Candy's website, but then you got to pay the transfer fee and on.
Right. Shipping.
That's all right. I got one coming. See, I knew it would happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait until the very end. There.
Right, my final one is another American guitarist.
All right.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
I knew someone was going Tommy Bolin.
Tommy Bolin teaser. This is the original from 1975 in the UK, where it says Tommy Bolin, guitarist of Deep Purple, in the corner, which is what they put on to see if people would buy it. I'll admit, in the UK in 1975, Richie Blackmore was like a god. So the fact that he jumped ship and Deep Purple had not only decided to replace him, but carry on with an American guitarist and no one even knew who he was, I didn't even want to know. And then reports were coming out from the UK tour that, Phil, you haven't missed anything. Just don't go there. And I just thought, that was a lucky miss. And it was later on when I heard Come Taste the Band, and I bought Private Eyes actually in early '76, and I really liked it. And my mate said, "You want to listen to Teaser, Phil? That's the one. It's got everything on it. It's got heavy metal on it. It's got jazz fusion on it. It's got everything you can imagine on it." And he was right. And I think a bit like Grant was saying with the Robert Plant album, the more you play a certain album, you just like it more and more and more. This is one of those albums. There's so many different CD versions. I mean, there's one with about 5 CDs in it. He's back. Whoever's got the tapes for this just keeps messing with them. But
they remixed it at one point too.
There's just so many. Yeah, there are. With Steve Morse plays on it and all sorts of things. But like Homeward Strut is so clever for that. It's just such a clever arrangement, and the musicianship on it, and Wild Dogs. I mean, one of the outtakes is nearly 15 minutes long, I think, on that track. Lotus, and the Marching Powder, which is a mind-melting jazz fusion track, and of course, things like the title track, the production, the percussion on it. I just think it's one of those albums again with a guitarist that we've lost that makes you think, where would he have gone?
Yeah. The sky was the limit for him. Yeah.
And he sang again as someone else who had a voice that was not what you'd expect. It wasn't a hard-edged rock voice, but a voice that suited his playing. There's some great ballads on this, and there is on some of the James Gang stuff. His voice is Alexis off Bang. There's some wonderful
Miami
stuff. Miami, yeah,
it's a great one.
Yeah,
I will say the Spectrum album.
Go back to Zephyr.
Tommy's guitar playing on Spectrum.
Mind Transplant too, the Alphonse Mouzon album. He's great on that one too. It's like
the Alphonse Mouzon one there. Is it Golden Rainbows and Nitroglycerin? I mean,
yeah.
Superb stuff. Absolutely superb stuff. So it made me realize just what a talent he was, and the fact that he landed in amongst Deep Purple. If it hadn't been for his love of taking himself too high up the ladder, I think that Purple could have probably released things that could have again pushed them in a different direction. But great loss, but great album, and still sounds fantastic now.
Yeah, I think if he had still been around, I think he and Glenn Hughes would have hooked up.
Oh, yes.
You would have gotten a Bolin Hughes or something along those lines.
Could you imagine?
They had a real connection when they did Come Taste the Band. And I would have loved to have gotten a follow-up album to that. That's a real highly underrated album in the Deep Purple.
I would pay money to see Tommy Bolin play disco with Glenn Hughes.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They would have done it. I mean, both of those
would have done it.
Love so many different genres of music. That's why I think those two would have partnered back up.
Well, like Dan Reed Network, where that was like a decade and later on, you could imagine Bolin and Hughes going down that route.
Right.
Yeah.
Hard-edged funk rock, or
I would dig it.
Yeah, that'd be good. So what have you got lying around in front of you that you haven't put up in front of the screen?
All right. I just pulled a couple here. How about John Norum, Face the Truth?
Yes. That is my favorite. Oh, my God. So good. I didn't even think of that.
Look at you guys.
Yeah. So guitar player from Europe, and Glenn Hughes, speaking of Mr. Hughes.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Cranking album. So good.
Peter Bolt from Accept is on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's there's another guitar player that's on there that's from the Scream Boost Boulay. I can't remember. That's who else it is.
I think he's the only one on this one.
Okay.
But Hempo Hilden plays drums.
Hempo Hilden, that's who it is.
Swedish guy, yeah. That's a great album. Really, really great album. I pulled the Pete Townshend as well. I had to pull Ace Frehley's first solo album because it's amazing.
I almost picked that.
And last but not least, a little Paul Kossoff.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah, good choice.
Backstreet Crawler is great. It's, again,
Tuesday morning and Time Away.
It's more great for the guitar playing than the actual songs. It's more just him just noodling and doing some cool stuff. Very, very cool. I love Kossoff. So that's all I picked. There's a ton more, but I figure if we ever want to do a follow-up, I should save some of them.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah. So
true.
Grant, what did you have?
I just picked 5. I just went with it.
Oh, that's all right. That's fine. We've had lots of other stuff come up. And Brendan?
All right. So Stan Bush from 83 solo album. If you like the Michael Bolton self-titled, this is exactly like that. Absolutely fantastic. For whatever reason in my mind, I listen to both of these back to back. I just associate them.
Is the Stan Bush a Rock Candy or is that Wounded Bird? Because
No,
I know it's on Rock Candy.
this was on Rewind Records, but a Sony Music.
All right.
version. Yeah.
Aviary was on that when it first came out on CD.
Yeah, exactly. I have that version. But Chrissie Hynde, Stockholm, her first solo album, I think beats anything the Pretenders did. This is just one of those albums that from start to finish.
Even the first Pretenders album?
Even the first album?
Yeah.
Wow.
Granted,
I don't know how you could beat that.
remember, I didn't grow up with those albums, so I came into the Pretenders.
I forget.
In 94, Last of the Independents, which is a phenomenal album. Love it. Okay, Rick Ocasek, Troubleizing. This was recorded with Smashing Pumpkins guitar or frontman Billy Corgan. Plays all over this. Melissa Oftemar, the bass player. So this is like Smashing Pumpkins backing up Rick Ocasek. So it does have that sort of sound from the 90s. I think it's 1997. I already talked to you guys about the Don Barnes, Go Out and Get It, 38 special. And then I held this up briefly, but the Gary Moore album, Victim of Changes, or Victim of Future. Fantastic. Love that.
Okay. And for me, Grant mentioned it a few moments ago, Spectrum by Billy Cobham, which sits very close to the hips of Tommy Bolin. Also in that kind of mode, Blow by Blow by Jeff Beck. And another one in that mode, really, Stanley Clarke, Rocks, Pebbles and Sand, which is a great rock album in many ways.
Really? Okay.
And finally, another Jeff Beck one, You Had It Coming, which is a later album, but I love that. Sorry, there is one more. Dave Lee Roth.
Oh,
his
absolutely.
first solo album.
There you go.
Yeah.
Almost grabbed a David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
It's so underrated, but my favorite is A Little Ain't Enough.
It's great.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. But when this came out in the UK, kind of just thought, just wow. It was just a Ted Templeman's production again. Just absolutely stunning.
Can you believe that all these picks and not one of us picked a Beatles solo album?
That's too low hanging.
I just thought I was sure that Grant was going to pick those.
Nah.
I would have gone Flowers in the Dirt, Paul McCartney.
Oh no, I would never pick that.
I figured someone's going to pick like All Things Must Pass or whatever. But
right, I know.
I still think the Beatles were better together than apart. But that's okay.
Well,
I'm a huge Paul McCartney fan, hands down.
Well, Paul by far was.
Oh yeah.
Way ahead of all of them.
I couldn't pick a Wings album because that's a band, and I don't love any of his solo records as much as I love the Wings stuff. So.
The Wings stuff's phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Well, everyone who stayed the course, let us know in the comments what you would pick as your favourite solo albums, or what were you surprised that we didn't pick, or surprised that we did pick. It's been great to hear from you, and it's been great having you guys on the show. But to just go around to tell us a little bit what's happening. So, Pete, what's happening on Sea of Tranquility?
Let's see. I'm not sure. Is this going live same day?
This is going to go out probably tomorrow, Monday, my time.
Okay. So for folks who are in the UK watching this, tune in to Sea of Tranquility tonight for the Hudson Valley Squares. We're going to be doing like a little history of and favorite albums released on Roadrunner Records, the great underground metal label from the 80s, 90s, and still going strong today. And if you didn't catch it, check out the 2 Ranking the Album shows we did yesterday. We did Sweden's The Night Flight Orchestra and the great Canadian rock band Honeymoon Suite. So that both of those went live yesterday. So that's what's kind of happening on SOT right now.
Fantastic. And Grant, what have you coming up?
All right. So before you head over to Pete's channel on Monday for Hudson Valley Squares at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I have a whole panel together, and we're going to look at all of our favorite tracks, our top 10 favorite tracks from 1991. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So it's a double whammy. So you can.
I always have to be wary when I post my videos to go live because I got to worry about what the Grant and the Contrarians are doing. So I'm like, all right, so I got to give them a little bit of buffer time.
But it's the same group on
it's
mine.
The same group
they
of
just
people who watch
over.
both channels. So yeah, so I have to like, we can't watch both at the same time. But yeah, we tape at 8, so
I'm doing that at 8, so it'll be done by the time you post it.
Yeah.
Other than that, what else did I do? Oh, I did
times for the people in the UK, or mine's Eastern. What are you, Grant? You're
Eastern.
Oh, you are Eastern. Okay,
we're all Eastern. Yeah.
Yeah, just so everyone in the UK watching, mine, Grant's, and Pete's, we're all Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. So you said what time, Grant?
At 8 p.m.
Yeah, you got to add 5 hours to that. So that's the middle of the night.
Right. We'll be watching
middle of the night for us a lot. Yeah, we always catch up. We always catch up 24 hours later anyway. So what's happening on your channel, Brendan?
All right. So on Sunday, I posted a Let's Go to the Record Store episode where I go to the record store. You can come along vicariously and experience me going through it, my finds, things of that nature. But from that, this was a store, High Fidelity, out in Amityville, New York, Long Island. And I interviewed Mark, the store owner, about what it's like to own a record store, get a different perspective. Those of you that watch my channel know I do a lot of those types of videos with Anthony Coviello from Sound Exchange. So I wanted to get a different perspective from another record owner. And later this week, I will have a Sound Exchange session episode with Anthony. New topic. Don't recall what it'll be, but, be something good to tune into for sure.
Fantastic. And on Spinning Magazine, I've at last done a Deep Purple live album ranking video. It basically started with 60 albums, and I diluted it down to 38, but it still took nearly an hour and a half to finish. So that's
so many.
But I've done it.
Oh boy,
I've done it.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
So that goes that week, and we've got the review show and also a Kate Bush ranking video going out as well. So thank you guys so much for being guests today. It's been fantastic. It's been loads of fun. And remember, everyone, please subscribe, ring that little bell, and check out the website at nowspinning.co.uk. Take care. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor, and I'll see you all very, very soon. So huge thank you to my guests, Pete Pardo from the Sea of Tranquility, Brendan Snyder and Grant from Grant's Rock Warehaus. That was brilliant, talking about our favourite solo albums. Well, not so much favourite solo albums, but solo albums we probably play the most. And you could see that we had lots of others we could have talked about as well. And we did go off on a few tangents, but I think that was really useful for those of us who love music like we do. So thank you again for all of you for your support and tuning in. Check out the channels as well for my guests. They're absolutely brilliant channels, lots of great programming on there as well. If you want to support Now Spinning Magazine a little bit more, you can become a patron or YouTube member, and you get access to the private WhatsApp group and the Facebook group. And we also have our own private virtual pub called the Now Spinning Arms, which meets up twice a month. So thank you again. Please take care. Keep spinning those discs, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.